Good evening, or good morning, whenever you happen to be watching this. This is CloudChartist with your weekly Ichimoku wrap for the week ending November 4th. This is Sunday night, November 6th, and I just walked in the door and was worried that I was not going to be able to get this video done before the market opened, and I completely forgot that the time was changing. So I happened to look at, my kitchen clock, and I was like, oh no, the market's about to open, but I was incorrect, and happily so. So I should be able to get this done before the candles start moving around. So let's start off with the ES. We see that ES had a very bearish candle last week, and in fact closed below the Kijun Sen. The Kijun Sen being at, let me see what I have going on here. All right, the Kijun Sen being at 2086.50. And we closed at 2081.50, so a full 5 points below the Kijun Sen. That suggests that we could continue lower. The fact that we did not respect the Kijun Sen support level. However, we do have some other areas of support that we can take note of. Let me zoom in a little bit and get a closer view of these. So this red line over here is called the Chikou span. It is current price, time shifted 26 periods into the past. So it's doing the end of it is doing exactly what the current candle is doing, but it's all the way back here, so 26 weeks ago. So anything that the Chikou interacts with will affect current price, or is current price really. But so you see that the Chikou came into the top of this candle, and the top of this candle was at, let's see, 2077.50, and we see that the low of this current candle was 2078.75. So it didn't actually come all the way down to 2077.50, but it did maintain support above this candle. So that's interesting and important. Next week, we have this candle to work with. The top of this candle is at 2079.75. So that may come into play as a potential support level if we do get more selling. If we do lose that 2079.75 level, the top of this candle, we also have the body of this candle, which is down at 2053. So that's a potential level of support also. The bottom of this candle could also act as support, which is 2042.50, and also the bottom of, or the very bottom, not I was talking about the candle bottom, the very bottom, the absolute low of the candle, which is 2038.50. So those are all potential levels of support that we could come into via the Chikou next week. If we wanted to, I'll show you another little Ichimoku trick. I try to be relatively efficient with my time here. I like to draw fibs to determine where we might find potential levels of support also. So I like to start my fibs from the top of a real candle body. So this real candle body is at, let's see, 2082.50. So I think that is the high candle body. So I'm sorry, not 2082.50, 2182.50. So let's see if I can get there. 21. This is tricky fingering here. Well, anyway, I'm going to take it as close as I can for the moment. And down to the candle low. So, and then I'll just correct this as I often have to do. So I'm going to be using 2182.50 here, and then I'm going to be using this close, which is 1860. So there's a little TOS lesson too. Did I say 50 or 60? Silly me. Close enough. All right. So there's some fibs. Let's see. It was... Oh, I'm sorry. It was 1860. 1860 was the close. 18... You get a little process here. CloudChartist process. All right. So we have some potential fib levels. The 61.8 obviously is very important. You can see that was a a level previously back here, where an area of interest, that 2059.30 area, or 2059.25 in ES trading terms, since there is no 30 in the US markets anyway. I know that European markets trade the ES in smaller increments. But so we did have a prior level of support that then became resistance 26 weeks ago, conveniently enough. So that level could act as support now, this 61.8 at 2059, let's call it 2059.25. Then we have the 50% of this entire move here, which is down at 2021.25. And then, of course, we have the top of the cloud, which is going to be, on next week's candle, is going to be at approximately 2002. How about that? You can remember that because that's what my BMW is. No, I'm just kidding. I've never had a 2002, but I would certainly like to. All right. Oh, geez, there's a big helicopter that's about to fly over. You may or may not hear. So overall, the ES is still in fully bullish territory, although it has lost support of the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, which endangers it to, or which, I don't know if endanger is the right word, but opens up the potentiality for it to come down and test the cloud. If it does come, even if it comes down all the way and tests the cloud, we're still bullish. And the cloud does have rising cloud support into about the middle of December, and then has a little dip into the end of the year. And then in January starts rising and continues to rise pretty much all through the first 3 months of 2017. So that's important to point out. And that is only as long as we do hold the cloud. So I think that's about, if we do go higher, which is entirely a possibility because we really don't know what the election results are going to bring. You know, some people think the election is priced in. Some people, I mean, I'm sure there will be some kind of volatility that could send price anywhere. But so some potential levels to the upside to keep an eye on if we do go higher is we do have the Tenkan-sen at 21.34 that should act as potential resistance. That's about 50 some odd points, 53 points higher. That would be a really nice move, and we could go, if we do move higher than that, you know, we could test this consolidation zone between the 88.6 fib and the, you know, the highs. You know, once we get into this area of testing the prior highs, you know, we could certainly go higher, or we could just chop around and then make another down move. You know, who knows what's possible. So that's about what I got on the ES. Let's move on to, let's look at some crude. Crude's at a really interesting point here. This is the big picture of crude. From this perspective, you can see that we had a very significant down move, obviously, from the highs in 2014. Then we got a little bit of the bounce in 2015, another sell-off, and what looks like the potential for an inverse head and shoulders formed here. We have, after we formed this right inverse shoulder, we were unable to break out above what we might have, where we might have drawn the neckline of this pattern. And indeed we pulled back a bit, but since we did not pull back lower than the bottom of where this shoulder would have been drawn, let me zoom in to make that a little clearer. Since we didn't pull back, you know, we only pulled back really about half of the shoulder's height. I think that pattern is still potentially valid. You know, I've oftentimes seen inverse head and shoulders with sort of like multiple shoulders. And crude likes to put in these kind of like radically, or not radical, but like just kind of weird inverse head and shoulders that are just kind of lumpy and funny, but are still that kind of basic shape. So as far as the actual candle analysis goes, let me remove this trend line. I think that I drew that on a different time frame anyway. Let me zoom in a bit. So as far as what happened last week, we managed to lose the Tenkan-sen support and came down, managed to lose the Kijun-sen support, traded down slightly inside the cloud, but then caught a small bounce and closed the candle right at the top of the cloud. The top of the cloud is at 43.95 here, and we closed at 44.13, so only 18 cents above the top of the cloud. But that 18 cents is significant because it really is a close above the top of the cloud. So going into next week, I'm expecting the top of the cloud, the potential for the top of the cloud holding to be quite good. We will have some resistance for the Chikou over here, however. We do have this candle for the Chikou to interact with, and if we do get a bounce to the upside, we're going to have the Chikou stuck under the cloud. So we will definitely, if we do get a move to the upside, have resistance at the bottom of the cloud right here, which is at approximately 47.68. And that happens to coincide with the Tenkan-sen, which is approximately coincide, which is at 47.64. So we're going to have, if we do get a move back up, we're going to have resistance at the Kijun-sen at 45.71 and the Tenkan-sen at 47.64. Moving forward, we see that we do have a flat cloud into the end of the year, and then or into the middle of December, and then we do have a drop here. If price cannot get back above the Tenkan-sen, there is danger that we would just move sideways. And if we are still in this area, like between, say, 44 and 45.75 area, there's a possibility that we could break lower right through this twist area. Price likes to move through clouds at thinner areas. It's more likely to move through at thinner areas than thicker areas. So cloud twists are definitely subject to price either moving through to the downside or to the upside. Let me see if I can find, I can't see an example of that on this chart at the moment. I mean, it's pretty thin where it happened to break through right here. You know, that's like a little, I can't think of the word, not an isthmus, but you know, it's a thin area on the cloud. So the cloud shape itself actually just looks like the potential for sideways action, maybe even into the beginning of April of next year, is possible also. All right, let's move on to some other U.S. indexes. Let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ caught some selling last week as well. And after losing support at 47.7238 at the Tenkan-sen, managed to come down and test this prior reversal area. There's a little bit of a bottoming tail here, and let's see, this candle opened at 46.6125, and fancy where we are right now, 46.61. So we're only one tick away from this. Or 25, let's say 25 cents away from this, the same level where we reversed previously. So there is a potential that we could reverse right here on the NASDAQ. If we do find more sellers, it looks real obvious when I have the line there, because you can see, I can't point and show you a line, but we have this point here and this point here. If we do continue selling, however, we do have a gap right here. I don't know if you can see that easily. Let me zoom in. I'll illustrate it for you. In Ichimoku charting, gaps are called windows, and I will just draw this one in for us, like so. It would be pretty nice to fill this gap, really, and the gap fill would be down to the top of this candle, which is at 45.6225. So that's potential bounce at that level on the gap fill. But if we do get all the way down there, chances are likely that we could actually hit the Kijun-sen, which is currently at 43.63. So keep that in mind as well. If we do lose the Kijun-sen next week, if we get some more dramatic selling, then we have many prior support zones offered by this consolidation area. And then we do have the cloud that is going to be offering support at approximately 43.6431 next week. But, you know, that's pretty far down there, so quite far. So I think the chance of that hitting there next week is pretty unlikely, but you never know what might happen. All right, let's look at the Russell. Russell, after last week closing between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen, tried to get a little push up above last week's close and was denied, and ended up closing under the Kijun-sen, this pink line, the Kijun-sen. But Ichimoku aficionados like yourselves will notice that the Chikou over here happens to be testing exactly at the bottom of the cloud. And so it did actually go below the cloud and close below the cloud. That's important because that shows that the Chikou is respecting the cloud support here. You can see even closer right now that the bottom of the cloud here is at 11:59.10, and we closed at 11:59.50. So, 40 cents above this cloud level. So that's significant. So that level very well could hold. That's what I'm getting at. So if we do get a move to the upside, we're going to need to get above this 1170.10. That's our first resistance, and then we do have a gap here. You might note. Important to note because that actually could act as resistance on both the bottom of it and the top of it. And it could act as resistance, and then if we do get a close over it, it could continue to act as support. So that's interesting to look at. If we do get a move higher above that, we can look at the Tenkan-sen as potentially offering resistance. It's currently at 1207.70. It might actually open lower when the market reopens, reflecting this downward momentum. I think that's about it for this chart. Let's look at the Dow. And interestingly enough, the Dow actually did hold the Kijun-sen on a closing basis on last week's chart. This looks like an interesting one to fib. I'm not going to take the time to make sure it's perfect. All right, so if we do see selling and we do lose the support of the Kijun-sen at 17,792, we could come down and test this. The 61.8 level looks like a pretty interesting area where there was some prior support and resistance. It's not exact here, but around the 17,450, 17,500 area, that could come into play. And then the 50% of this move from here to here. And as I said, these fibs aren't perfect, but around 17,208, and then we do have support at the top of the cloud, and it's going to be just slightly lower on next week's candle. It's going to be around 17,139, 17,140, something like that. If we do get a move to the upside, we're going to be looking at 18,174 at the Tenkan-sen as resistance. All right. Let's look at some treasuries. You notice that the 30-year, this is ZB, the 30-year treasury bonds, that we have been in bullish mode since we broke over the cloud in 2014. We have failed to, we were neutral for a little while here in the end of 2015. But we've overall been above the cloud the whole time, and we do have a rising cloud offering support. That's just what you want to see if you want to be bullish over a longer period of time, like multiple years since the lows were put in back at the end of 2013. So currently, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, we are once again mean reverting back to the cloud. Clouds represent equilibrium, so it's very common for price to mean revert back to them. And we are holding the support of the cloud here. So it looks like the potential for a sideways to up move is in play here on ZB, as long as we hold the top of the cloud, which is important here. Top of the cloud is at 162.18, so keep an eye on that particular level. If we do continue higher, we have a couple of areas of resistance to keep an eye on. We have the Tenkan-sen for the Chikou, which is at 164.02. Then we have next week's candle for the Chikou. Potential to run into that is at 164.23 or potentially 165, that area. And then we have the this prior support turned resistance level around 165.20. And then we have the Tenkan Sen up here at 166.18. So those are all potential levels of resistance if we do get a move to the upside. The shape of the cloud here being sort of rectangular and equidistant from the top to the bottom of the cloud suggests potential for sideways action is high until the cloud starts sloping up again, like in the end of November, beginning of December, and then into the beginning of next year. And then on February 20th, we reach a peak in the cloud and we do see a drop off down into the beginning of March and a continued slope down into the middle and end of April. So keep that in mind. Let's look at ZN. ZN is similar to ZB. We're in a range here between the top of the cloud and the Tenkan Sen. So that should continue. So the top of the cloud is going to be next week is going to be at 129, 130, and then the Tenkan Sen is up here at 130, 150. So I expect more trading in the range. If we do manage to break above the Tenkan Sen, then we do have the Kijun Sen offering resistance up here at 131, 225. Let's look at the dollar. Dollar in this big, crazy looking bull flag type thing. We see that we did get a pullback in the dollar last week after we put in a potential reversal gravestone doji type candle. We did get a confirmed reversal, so we did get a lower high and a lower low. We came down and we nearly tested the Tenkan Sen, but not quite. The Tenkan Sen being at 96.76.5, and we closed at 96.94. So about 20 ticks or 20 cents, I should say, above the Tenkan Sen. If we do break the Tenkan Sen support, we could easily come down and test the Kijun Sen wherever that happens to be. It might be above the cloud on next week. It might be coming up for potential for a bear cross. And so we will see wherever the Kijun Sen is. And then we also have, of course, the cloud at 96.24. You see that we have a flat cloud for quite a ways into next year. Suggesting more crazy sideways type action with a floor of support at 96.24, all the way into late April of next year. The cloud shape also represents a tight range, kind of sideways type price action. The Chikou next week is going to come into potential support at the top of the cloud at approximately at approximately 96.38. So you can keep an eye on that potential level of support also, which is just slightly higher than where the cloud is at over here, 96.24, 14 cents. I haven't looked at corn in a while. I don't want to make this video too long, but I thought it is interesting because we did have a double bottom type situation going on. This is a chart going all the way back to 2014 where we put in this reversal to the upside, and we have the same thing going on here at the same level. So let me zoom into current times. So I'm looking for corn to have put in a bottom and potential for a move higher to be pretty significant. If corn comes down and touches the Tenkan Sen, that would be a nice buy setup with good risk reward, because you know that if you get a candle close below the Tenkan Sen, then the Tenkan Sen is no longer offering support for a move to the upside. We do have a bearish candle last week, but just with a lower high and a lower low, so the trend is currently down. So we can look for Tenkan-sen to potentially offer support this week whenever the new candle opens. It might actually even be flat next week, representing or reacting to this downward momentum of this candle as well. So that's just just a little peek at grain complex as represented by corn. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I do have thoughts about potentially making a election trade video with just some ranges in case we get extreme movement, some ranges, some levels of support and resistance that you can look at beyond these levels that I just named here. Maybe I will, look at some monthly charts and get some other levels to work with if we do break the current range that we're in. Thanks a lot for watching. If you're interested in learning more about Ichimoku charting, I do teach people how to trade with Ichimokus in my chat room. You can find more information about that at CloudChartist.com. And subscribe to my YouTube page if you want to get notifications when I do release new videos. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, feel free to ask in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter at CloudChartist, or feel free to send me an email, cloudchartist@gmail.com. Thanks again, and have a great evening, and be careful for the next few days into the election. Anything could happen. Keep your money safe. Don't take any unnecessary risks, and good luck. Thanks again.